for living on purpose, for living differently on purpose, for living right side up in an upside down world. Today we come to the seventh of the 8 Beatitudes. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. I don't know if you've noticed, but we are not in a very peaceful season in our country or in our world. It's this election season. I don't know if you're feeling what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling the tension. I'm feeling the division. I'm seeing the accusations and the indictments that are being thrown back and forth across the aisle. And I'm hearing one message come through loud and clear. The people who desire to be our public servants are telling us, I am the one who will bring people back together. I have the ability to bring unity. I have the ability to bring peace. I'm afraid we have very little proof of concept, however. That it is not just this season, and I realize that every season feels like it is the most divisive and the most hateful season that we have ever been in. But in my experience, we're always on the verge of annihilating each other. I mean, if you're old enough to remember the 60s like I do, that was a pretty rough time. I remember the anti-war protests and the civil rights protests. I remember a little story about a place called Kent State University, where U.S. National Guardmen shot and killed American college students who were protesting against the Vietnam War. That's pretty harsh stuff right there. I think we have always been a people in turmoil. The world has always been divided. Those of you who have studied history, you might remember that little thing called the Civil War, where here in the United States, American citizens killed other American citizens to the tune of somewhere around 628,000 people. If you look around the globe, in my lifetime, I've never really seen a time of true peace. There's always been tension and division and tribalism. If you look in human history, go back to the very beginning. Remember Cain and Abel? That didn't go well at all. And they were just the first 2 brothers. So the promise of peace is an elusive promise. It's the challenge of peace. And this is what makes the 7th Beatitude so compelling. Because the 7th Beatitude says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. If there is going to be peace, it's on us. It's not on the political class. It's not on the military class. It's not on others. It's on those who call themselves the children of God. That is a significant challenge. Are we up for it? Are we willing to be the people who will be the agents of peace in a divided and war-torn world? And what does that mean? How do we confront the forces that are tearing our world apart? Because it is the distinctive of the children of God. They will be the peacemakers. That's what we want to wrestle with today. Are we up for the challenge? Are we able to be the children of peace? Are we worthy of the name? But before we press into that, would you pray with me for a moment? Father in heaven, I would ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart would be pleasing in your sight. That you would use your word, spoken by your servant, anointed by your Spirit, to challenge us to learn today. I pray the same for myself, that even as I teach, I might learn, and what I learn, I might teach. Pray that we might all be students today, students of peace. Pray that for myself and for my family, for all of us here. For I ask that in Jesus' name, amen. In case you're wondering, I have no political aspirations. I have no desire and no appetite for. In fact, I am somewhat repelled by the idea of political service. But that doesn't mean I don't respect or honor those who are willing to be true public servants. Because I think it takes a special kind of person, and I don't have the intelligence for it. I don't know how you sort out all of the urgent from the unimportant. I don't know how you navigate through all the criticism and all the compromise that is necessary to be a true public servant. I just don't have the temperament for it. I don't think I have the intelligence for it. I don't know the first thing about diplomatic strategy or about détente or about negotiating at a global level. I don't know anything about those things. But there is something that I am very familiar with. And that is why it's so hard to bring people together. I know what the greatest obstacle we face that prevents us from experiencing peace. And while there are a lot of things that prevent us from finding that peace and that wholeness and that rest, I think the greatest obstacle to peace is very simply hate. The opposite of peace is not war. The opposite of peace is hate. And hate is what we must confront if we are the children of God and we are going to fulfill our calling, our distinctive, our destiny as peacemakers. We have to confront hate. But I want to suggest a theory today, and this is a theory that I have that helps us, that encourages us in that confrontation. And what I want you to consider today is that hate is the refuge of the weak. Let me say that again. Hate is the refuge of the weak. It takes no courage. It takes no strength. It takes no intelligence to hate. Hate is the refuge of the weak. And there's a couple of reasons that I say that. And first of all, it's because hate is in its nature self-destructive. Hate is the Ouroboros or the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. Hate is a law of diminishing returns. When you define yourself by what you are against, once you destroy what you are against, you have lost your purpose. You have lost your significance. It's an unwinnable game. And it's a power game, and it's a game where my goal is to have you submit to my opinions and my preferences and my will. And hate is a self-destructive path because at its core, hate is fueled by fear. Now, fear can be a good thing. Fear has its value. Fear inspires us to be prepared. Fear inspires us to be careful. The fear of failure is a motivating factor. And even in Proverbs chapter 1, it tells us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. There's a motivational value in fear. But it's when fear starts to control us, when fear becomes the motivating factor for all that we do, it makes us very vulnerable to hate. I mean, we're all familiar with fear. I was reading a survey this week about the most common phobias in America, and I was surprised by the things that Americans are afraid of. These are the top seven fears of a recent survey, American survey. Aviophobia, the fear of flying, 14%. 14% of all Americans have a fear of flying. Number 6 is claustrophobia. 17% of all Americans have a fear of being trapped in an enclosed space. Aquaphobia, 19%. This is not just a fear of water, it's a fear of being trapped underwater and being unable to breathe, or fear of being out so far from shore in a boat that you can't see the land. That would be aquaphobia. Trypanophobia is fear of medical procedures, fear of needles, fear of blood transfusions, fear of pills. This is trypanophobia, 18% of all Americans. Zoophobia, fear of animals, which you're familiar. Arachnophobia is fear of spiders. Ophidiophobia is fear of snakes. Cynophobia is fear of Georgia bulldogs. But it really should be fear of, like, longhorns is what should be. Number 2 is acrophobia, fear of heights. I mean, I get that one. That one, heights always kind of made me worry. But the number 1 fear in this survey, this is what surprised me, glossophobia. Glossophobia is a fear of public speaking. You may say, well, Dave, you don't have that. Yes, I do. Well, I kind of do. What I have a fear of is speaking in public and sucking. So it's a fear of sucking at public speaking. I'm not afraid of public speaking. I'm just afraid of being bad at it. I don't know if that's a form of glossophobia. A quarter of all people have that fear. Now, some of my favorite fears, I really like phobia. That's a fear of fears. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I like this one. It says kipdalophobia, fear of long words. So you can't even be afraid of it because you're afraid of the word. Omphalophobia, I didn't know this was a thing. It's fear of belly buttons. It's actually a thing. And arachnobutyrophobia is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. Just the idea of it is, but you see, fear, when it controls us, causes us to be vulnerable to hate, because we hate what we're afraid of, what we don't understand. But fear is also sourced in anger, and that self-destructive aspect of what makes fear the refuge of the weak is because fear it operates in anger. It defines itself by what it's against, by what it's opposed to. And it's the common solution, the way that most people think we are going to make peace is that we're going to legislate it. We're going to mandate it. We're going to pass laws that will mandate unity, and we all understand the futility of that. Conformity is not peace. It's not the absence of diversity that makes peace. It's the absence of anger. It's the absence of fear. It's the absence of hate. You see, the way that we typically deal with a search for peace is we deal with it from a position of power. It's from the top down. We will do the things that make for peace rather than from the bottom up. See, the paradox of the gospel is that we achieve peace not through power, but we achieve peace through sacrifice. We achieve peace through personal surrender. We achieve peace by serving. In our world, there's 2 constructs. There's a power construct, and the power construct says we will have peace when everyone agrees. And then there's the servant construct, which says I will be an agent of peace, and I will be the one who is the peacemaker. And that's on me, not on you. This is exactly what Jesus was talking about when he said in where are we? My pages are sticking together. Now you know why I don't like notes. Matthew 20. Matthew chapter 20, the last will be first and the first will be last. Matthew 20, verse 26, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. Matthew chapter 5, he says, you have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Verse 45, that you may be the children of your Father in heaven. This is why Matthew chapter 5 says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God, the children of their Father in heaven. Because at its core, the source, the antagonism against peace is hate. And the source bed for hate is that fear and that anger. But fear is the refuge of the weak, not just because it's self-destructive. It's also the seedbed of this. Fear is the refuge of the weak because it is also self-destructive, or it is self-loathing, self-despising. You see, there is an innate immaturity in hate. You don't have to be sophisticated to hate. You don't have to be educated to hate. You don't have to be thoughtful to hate. I have proof of concept of this because I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who is very good at telling me what she hates. And I never had to sit down with her, and I never said, Frankie, now, when you like something, you do this. And when you hate something, you pick it up and you throw it at Hefe. That's how we'll know that you hate something. No, she knew that from the factory. She knew that right out of the box. If I hate something, I am going to let you know. Without practice, without training, without thought. You see, hate is rooted in this self-loathing. And it comes from this immature idea that I haven't thought about. Why is it that I hate these things? Why is it that I don't like these things and do like these things? But it's not just sourced in immaturity, it's also sourced in an insecurity. The evidence is projection. I don't know if you're like me, but as I watch our public discourse, as I watch people campaign for public office, or I watch people talk about and give commentary to the conditions of our society, it's almost like sitting in a therapist's office. Because what I'm reading is in between the lines, I'm hearing people confess what they hate in themselves by identifying it as what they hate in other people. You understand how that works. It's that old phrase, maybe you said it as a kid, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say to me bounces off of me and sticks to you. Or maybe you're familiar with the way that William Shakespeare said it. William Shakespeare said, "Methink he protesteth too much." Or maybe it's the colloquialism that you're familiar with. It takes one to know one. That's projection. What I hate in you, I understand and I see and I identify clearly because I hate the same thing in me. And out of that insecurity, I have to push back against you because you're manifesting something that I despise in myself. There is no solution. There is no peace when a person is riddled with this kind of self-loathing and self-hatred, with this immature sense of insecurity. That healing has to come from the inside out, not from the outside in. It has to be a gift. It has to be a transformation. You cannot be a peacemaker and not be at peace with yourself. But this is the promise. This is the promise of God. The promise of God and I think it's Psalm 29:11. It says that he will keep you in perfect peace. The word there is the Hebrew word shalom. The word shalom appears 157 times in the Hebrew Bible. And there's one book in the Hebrew Bible where it appears more often than any other, and it's the book of Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah, who identified the coming Messiah as the Shar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. In Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3, it says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." Isaiah 32:17, "The fruit of that righteousness will be peace. Its effect will be quietness and confidence forever." And then the famous passage about the Messiah in Isaiah 53, verse 5. "He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. And by his wounds we are healed." See, Jesus understood that in order for us to be children of God, in order for us to be peacemakers, we have to be at peace. And so he says, I'm going to give it to you. John chapter 14, he says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 16:33. In me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. If you're a father, you understand this. You understand, as fathers, it is the deepest desire of our hearts that our children experience peace, peace in their home, peace in their lives. And how do we do that? We protect them and we provide for them. We defend them. We give them our strength. How can our Father in heaven do any less for us? You see, peace is not made from the top down. It's not made from others moving in us. It's made from the bottom up and the inside out. Peace comes as we confront hate, and hate is the refuge of the weak. It is the refuge of the weak because it is built on this self-destructive fear and anger. And it is built on this self-deceiving, self-loathing that is immature and that is insecure. Peace is a gift that we receive that we might know we are the children of God. We have peace so that we can make peace. This is the challenge of the seventh beatitude. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. It is on us to confront hate. It is up to us. This is our distinctive. This is our calling. As the children of God, we are the people who are at peace, who make peace. I am not a politician. I have no desire to be a politician. In fact, I have great respect for people who devote their life to public service. And living in a democratic republic, as we are blessed to do, I believe that it is our hope that the people who are our public servants represent the best of us and the best in us, so that they can represent us well, and so that they can represent the desire for better, the desire for peace. But it's not up to them. It is not their responsibility to make peace. It is ours. It begins with us. Because it is our challenge to be the peacemakers. This is why Jesus began his greatest sermon that he ever preached with this set of 8 paradoxes, 8 promises. It is a architecture for changing the world. It is the instruction for living right side up in an upside down world. It is how to make a difference in the world, how to live with purpose, how to be different on purpose. It is the countercultural checklist. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who feel poverty, because theirs is the wealth and the infinite gift of the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, because everyone mourns. But there will be a day, and there is a path to comfort. Blessed are the meek, the humble, those who place themselves at the end of the line. Blessed are the meek, for they win. They inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, not just for the things that don't satisfy, but those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Because the promise is that there will be a day when you will be filled to overflowing. Blessed are the merciful, because as you give mercy, it will come back to you. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, because out of a purity of heart is how we see God. And the more we see God, the more it purifies our heart. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the ones, you and I, who are called the children of God. We are the agents of peace. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, who are willing to take a stand, who are willing to be strong and courageous for righteousness' sake. For just as with the poor in spirit, theirs will be a day, theirs will be the kingdom of heaven.